worries.
All right, so welcome to Evony with Genghis, server 68. Today we have a live chat, and I got a bunch of questions submitted to me before the chat actually took place. So we're here mostly with people from one server who had a lot of questions going forward. And just before we start, so I actually have a voice chat going with them as well as some questions. So if anyone in that voice chat could tell me, what server are you guys? Oh, actually, is it here? No, it's not here. So what server are you guys from?
We're 565,
And how old is this server?
we're a little over 100 days.
Okay, yeah. So how many SVSs have you had so far?
I think we had four.
Four. Nice. And what, if you want to tell us, what is your name on your server?
I'm Death Star 9. I go by DS9.
Nice. Okay, so you've had four SVSs, and what's the record like?
Not very good. We were kind of our server was kind of messed up for a while. We had a lot of civil wars going on, so there were a lot of attacks. We were attacking each other and other alliances throughout the civil war, throughout SDS, and we didn't really work together. We started to work together after a couple, and we're kind of taking a couple steps back, but we've only won one of them, so we have some issues with the SDS.
Yeah, most early servers do have issues, and I get it too. I have personal issues with it. Always, I fight them internally. Like, so I'm enemies with you guys 12 days out of 14, and we're supposed to be friends for 2 of it. Right? Like, it's a weird concept that they do have. But some people put it all together and work together, and servers work great. But until you put that aside and work together, it's not going to go well.
We've learned, or hopefully we're learning. So.
Yeah, so I'm just checking now on YouTube, making sure that I can hear you and then me, of course. So I'm just getting on the link, getting my link up right now, and then I will begin going through the questions. Just want to make sure that it's working, so we don't have to restart.
You can design beautiful
Together, it's not going to go well.
We've learned, or hopefully we're learning.
Okay, so it is working. So I can hear you, and I will go through this. Hades, what is up? Hades is in my alliance on my server there in the chat. So, okay, so I'll just go through these first. So number 1, we have a sign up for Battle of Shalons in 45 days. Can you explain what that is? Is it weekly? So I'll go into it here on my screen here. So you go into event, and we'll see Battle of Shalons, and I believe it ends in 45 days, which means it starts in 15 days. Yeah, see, ends in 45 days. So it starts in 15 days. It takes place over 30 days. So it's going to take place every Wednesday night if you are in North America. For me, I'm Eastern time, so it took place at 11 p.m. Eastern, and it's 2 hours. It's just like a regular battlefield, except there's 4 teams in there at once, and each team is allowed to have 25 members. And basically, you play 4 different rounds against different teams each time, and then there's a standings at the end. And then if you go into Shalons here, it should have the rewards at the top right here. So here you see sign up starts in 12 days, so it will start in 15. And if we go into the rewards, you can see them. So they have round rewards, just like Battle of Guatemala and Battle of Constantinople. And if you're the first place team, you will get these depending on the points you score, and the rewards change depending on what place you finish out of those 4 each round. And then in the 5th round, I believe only the top 16, 1-6 advance. My alliance when I was in it last time, we were like 40th or something, but it was like a 50 place tie of undefeated teams, but then it goes by how many points you score each round. So it's important to score a lot of points. So round rewards, and then there's top ranking rewards. You guys can click on this on your own. I don't want to waste too much time on it, but basically that. And the qualification is there will be 3 different tiers of it, just like maybe if I go into, so the qualification works in Battle of Constantinople. And if you are one of the top 256 ranked teams, so if you look at Alliance ranking, mine is Elite League 5, and that's pretty far down, but we are 215th overall. The top 256 make the highest round, and then there's 2 other rounds. Like, so we'll be in Peak of Glory if we hold our current ranking, and then there would be 2 other rounds of 256 teams. One would be elite, and then one would be, I think it's like junior league or something. And there's 3 continents too. So continent 1 has 3 leagues, continent 2 has 3 leagues, continent 3 has 3 leagues. So basically you have to finish top 256 in the 4-week season of Battle of Constantinople, and then you get to play Battle Shalons, and it's awesome. It's basically an all-stars for a team event. So it's very enjoyable and you'll like it. Any other questions about that?
I don't have any questions on that. Thank you.
Okay, and then when cultivating generals, is there a cutoff for the max power? Is it 502? Do some generals have a higher cutoff? Does it matter? So I'll just show you one of my generals. And basically the cutoff is 500, but it's not really a cutoff. It's you can't increase anymore. But if you're at 498, you can get them up to like 510 or 515 with a lucky roll. So as you see here with mine, I can't cultivate him anymore or he'll drop. This one will drop below 500. But because it's attack, I wanted it at the time when he was my archer general before. So I purposely did it so that his attack went the highest. But also the way that you would cultivate is once they get to, let me see if I have a different general. I can go over here. This guy might be perfect to show you. So this is Matthias. Yeah, so if I was to cultivate him, so up to 300, you can use gold. And anything over 300, you have to use gems to get him up to 500. So that's basically how that works. They all max out at 500. I don't think I have any... I don't have really any generals that are like half done where I could show you that. Maybe one of my Queen Jays. I'll take a look, see if I could find one in here. And it'll show you different colors, which will tip you off as to, okay, so she might have it. Yeah, so yellow, I cannot cultivate her anymore at that category. And then green means go ahead. But once these numbers get to 300 or 299, you have to start using gems to get her up. And the way I cultivated her, because the only thing that matters for Queen J is gathering speed. Right here, resource gathering speed. So I just went gems and, oops, I did not want to do that. So I will cancel that. I did not want to do that. I wanted to go up to the times 10 here. And then you can click only political. And then you go for it. And then try to get her up high. Because that's the only one that matters for her is resource speed. So number 3, how many troop camps should a player build outside their wall? How about other resource producers? Okay, so this is really, really dependent on you. And I have 1 army camp. That's it. And I know lots of other good players who only have 1 army camp as well. Just joining a rally as we play here, and or as I talk here. So I'll show you my fields. They're a mixed mash of just a bunch of different stuff. Some people, I'll tell you this. Early in the game, it's probably food that you want the most. And then later in the game, it's probably stone. So that's pretty much it. It's all up to you how composition you want to have. Mine are all just everything, but I only have one army camp. And then I just figure that I use speeds, and speeds will make up for it, and I prefer the resources. But some people have 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 army camps. But especially early in the game when you're really not making troops that much, I would not recommend it. I started out, when I first started, because I came from Evony 1, and that was all about get as many barracks as you can, and I put 10, and then I learned very quickly in this game it doesn't really matter, especially at the early part of the game. So number 4, how important is it to increase the resource producers in front of the wall? Again, kind of the same question. It's up to you. Like, you're going to get more resources from gathering on farm tiles than you are in your city. But in your city becomes really important if you have a tile war on your server and you need those resources. Or for alts and you're going to transfer resources over. You want both of them. I would basically, what I did when I was playing for my first year or so, I would use those resource producers because they tend to build quicker. They don't take as long. They're not like 200-day builds. So I would use them. Say I was stepping out of the house and I needed to build for 7 hours, I'd throw it on one of those. And then when I come back, I'd do something else. Or if I wanted one when I'm sleeping and it's going to finish in 9 hours, I'd do it then. But I didn't put too much effort into just doing the tile, those resource fields, because I just felt like I get so much more from rallies or gathering. So number 5, do you have any tips to help players to remember to use a truce agreement? I just use my phone. I set an alarm as soon as I set a truce. Let's say it's 24 hours. I set my alarm for 22 hours and then I reset. And then sometimes every few days I end up setting it the night before because I do it at night too. So I make sure that it's a time when I am home and I am not at work. I will not be busy. And if I know I'm going to be busy, I set it early, right? So let's say I have 14 hours left and I'm going to bed, and that means I'm going to wake up and there's only 5 hours in the morning when I wake up. I don't want it to be at work. What's a few more gems to set it at night? So I'll just set my 24 or 3 day at night. So someone in the call, if you could just mute the YouTube, because there's a bit of an echo. Thanks. And then what are your thoughts about servers that have a lot of server-wide naps? I guess I've actually never been on one that has that. We've always had a bubble or burn policy. We had a little bit just before we merged servers. We all kind of agreed we'll have a nap. It was about a month, and that was just to kind of build up for the merge. We didn't know what was going to happen with the merge. It was all of our first merges, and we just kind of were being friendly because in case we had to be friends and it was going to be a hostile merge, like who knows, right? So we had a bit of a nap for about a month, but there was no dropping bubbles. It was, hey, we will let you sorry, just checking something out on my screen here. Yeah, someone put their video up on the call there, so if you could put that down, thanks. It was just to let you loot your alts in peace and that sort of stuff, but there was no nap. My general thoughts on it is it usually makes a weak server. People generally just start to forget about their bubbles, and then they go into SVS without it and that sort of stuff. I don't mind, like the server I'm on now, we sort of have an agreement. If you're looting your alt, we won't touch you. It's fine. If we see that, it's okay. But if there's bubble drops, people hit each other all the time. And that's just kind of how it is on most servers, I think. 7, for an offensive player, would building up a siege army make sense after building a ranged army? Not really. I would probably say ground would be the best thing because ground protects your ranged army. Siege is the best defensive troop, but you have to have troops in front of it. So today in Battlefield, I took, 6 or 7 or 8 different rallies and lasted, and then I still had about 700-800 million power, but I had no troops in front of my siege that were still remaining, and then they just got wiped out at the end. I saved a few and sent them off to reinforce people, but siege die easy if there's nothing in front of them, but they're like the greatest buff troop if that makes sense. So they protect everything else, but they have to have things in front of them. So sieges, if you're just offensively attacking, I would have ground to protect your archers. But you need everything eventually, so I wouldn't neglect them. 8. What is the quickest way to increase your Monarch experience? So basically 2 ways, and it is to join rallies, and specifically Hydra rallies really, really help with that. And I'll see if I can show you what is in a Hydra chest. I should have some available. And then prestige, right? Or going into the shrine. So right here, if you just look at a level 3 Hydra chest, and they have Monarch XP. So just attacking one of them, and then you get double drops, you get 7,000. And I think level 2 is 6,000, and this one, level 1 is 5,000. So Hydra is huge. But basically, join rallies and go into the shrine. Before I got to max Monarch level, I was doing 8 shrines a day, and that would get me we could just read right here. So 40,000 per, so 40 times 8 would get me 320,000 Monarch a day. But another way, you could trade with people. So you can, like, if I go out here and I click on another city, and I can gift 5,000 Monarch XP at a time. I believe that's the amount that you can gift. So you could trade with people, or you could just ask people, because Monarch XP is something that doesn't really matter anymore to people who are max. And like, I'll show you. So I can go to gift here and go to waybills, and then go over to where my Monarch XP is, and you could just see how much Monarch XP I have that's just sitting there, just waiting. So I could send 5,000, 50,000 at a time, and you can easily get that off larger players. Once they're finished, they have no need for it at all. I guess, like, I just have no one to give it to, and then I also have, I guess, like, if K40 came, I'm saving it right for then and just dropping it right away. But Monarch XP is one of those things I think you could trade with people and get it really cheap. Any tips on the best way to purchase gem packs? So the best way to purchase, I mean, you just pay money, right? But the best purchases you will ever make is just right here. And you just buy these ones right up to the top. And these are the best ones you can buy. There's 2 other things you can do. So 1, buy them on the weekends because they give out bonus items with it. And then also, if you have an alt, when you start a new account, you get the 2 times purchase. So I'm just going to show you in the purchase area. Hopefully it's up, because they refresh these every hour they change. So I'll show you which one you would want to buy if you're opening an alt. If they're in here. So it's not going to be here right now, I don't think, because they have the speed one up. But there's a resource one. And if you bought the resource all the way up until the max level, so you bought resource every single time, and it'll take you a few hours, because once you buy it, it'll be gone, and then it'll show speed, and then the next hour the resource will come back. So you just keep buying those, and then for about 350 American dollars, I think it is, you'll get about 10 billion total resource, something like that. And then you loot your alt. But you have to be able to loot your alt too and know how to do it. And the best time to loot your alt for me, I was not in the biggest alliance growing my account. So the best time to loot your alliance is when the bigger people are in battlefield. So you wait till they're in battlefield and then you hit your stuff, because then they can't do anything about it. And everybody does that. I have people that I just love to hit if I ever saw them doing it, because I don't like them. Even though we have an agreement, they're not all alliances are in this agreement on our server, or I'm talking in a past life on my other server where I would like to do it, but they all do it in when I'm in Battlefield 2 or when other people are in Battlefield. So everybody knows this trick. So it's just something to do. Number 10, I know you have videos on layering, but can you tell the basics and reasoning of layering? Okay, so I think I turned off all of my layers my troop marches right now. I don't think I have one. So let me see if I can go into reports. Maybe I have one. Okay, so I'll go into my battle details and we'll just look at what my march was here and go over it. So we'll just start at the very bottom of it. And I don't have much. I've changed recently. I'm kind of experimenting with what I want to do with my layers. But basically, from troop 1, and you have to do all 4, right? Siege, arch, mount, ground. You have to... So all of these going all the way down, you can add them up. 8 survived, 47 died. 47 died, 8 survived. 22 died, 33 survived. So I don't have to scroll all the way down, but all of them have 55. And I just do 55 because it's easy for me to tap the 5 twice and then scroll 5-5, scroll 5-5. I could do 33 or 22, but 5 just seems to be in the easiest place for me. But you basically just have to have one or a couple troops at every single troop type there is, from 1 all the way up to your highest level. And the reason for that is when you enter a battle, the defender is going to have 1 of everything probably, right? Because it's a full castle. And his T1 horses are going to look for your T1 horses. So if he has 1 million of them, they're all only going to attack your 1 T1 horse in the first round. But if you have 0, then they'll go up and attack your tier 2 horse. But if you don't have a tier 2 horse, they're going to go up and attack your tier 3 horse. If you don't have one, they're going to go up. So then you're going to end up with millions of troops attacking just your T12s if that's all you sent. So you have to have one to occupy the defender, and that's for round 1, right? Then round 2 goes, and then whoever's still alive looks and sees if there's tier 1s to fight. If there isn't, they fight tier 2s. If there isn't, they fight tier 3s, and like that. So that's the basics of why you need layers. And then in terms of how you make your layers, T12 is the best troop in the game. For some reason, people have a lot of theories on it. Some people will argue all the time over why T12 is the best, but T12 seems to get all the kills all the time, or most of them, even more so than the T13s and 14s. And some people think it's because T12 is the only tier that will attack outside of T12. So it will just automatically start attacking different tiers in the first round. No one really knows because Evony doesn't share battle mechanics with us. Evony 1 used to have a battle simulator so you could play around and do stuff, but this one does not. So I can't really tell you too much on that, but 12 is the best, and you have to have 1 of everything, and you shouldn't have all 12 and then 1 of everything. You should also have, if you don't have 12s, you should have, or if you do have 12s but no 13, 14, you should have some 11s and 10s in there as well. If you don't have 12s, then you should have 11s as the troop that you have the most of, and then some 10s and some 9s, and that sort of way in layering. If you don't have T14s, how would you layer your ranged if you had only 13s and below? So let's pretend I have a 1 million march. I would probably put about 600,000 of that into T12s, and then about 150,000 into T13. That would bring me up to 750,000. Then I'd probably again have about 150,000 of T11s. So I'm at 900,000, and then something like 75,000 10s and 25,000 9s. Obviously subtract all those ones. So that, but all those 55s of all those layers that you're doing. But that's basically about what I would do. But you also have to keep in mind with, if you only have 200,000 T13s, you cannot put 200,000 T13s in your march, because you have to consider that troops die when attacking, and you want to be able to send the same march a few times. So maybe if you only have 200,000, you only put 30,000 in that march, right? You have to make sure that, because if you go to hit that preset and all those troops aren't there, the game, the computer will start to fill in with lower levels. So you want to always have the exact preset that you have. So I'm wary about that on my troops. My T14s are still a bit less than my 13s and 12s. So I keep that number lower in the rally that I'm going to send, just because once they're gone. So if I was to put 400,000 T14s in my march, and then after 2 or 3 attacks, they're dead, and I can't put them in anymore, then that's going to be 0. And now that's going to put an even bigger burden on my 13s and 12s and 11s and 10s, and the computer's just going to fill those, and then those die faster. So keep in mind that you want your march to be used multiple times in the battle. 12. Did your server merge? Why did it do that? How was your server before the merge? So yes, my server merged. It merged at about the 16-month mark, which is very late. It took a long time because our server was a very, very big spending server. We had a lot of very big coiners on our server. We were probably the best server, maybe in the history of the game, and in C2 and below. And the reason why we were such a good server, not only did we have a lot of coiners, but why did we have so many coiners? It's because Evony used to, they did not open up servers like they do today. So today, if you're playing Evony, it seems like there's a new server 2-3 times a week. Our server 136 was the first new server in about a year, I believe it was. So everyone who wanted a fresh start and were good players got excited and joined this server 136 when it opened. And so there was a lot of really good players. So that's why we were so good. I believe we lost 1 SVS at the start, or a couple at the start. And then we went about 12 or 13 months. We only lost 1 SVS that entire time. And that was just because someone in the last half hour went for wings and cost us in. There just wasn't enough time to come back and win. But yeah, other than that, our server never lost SVSs unless someone was rogue and trying to lose it for us, basically. And then we merged. And so now that's the next question. How was it after you merged? So it was obviously, I went into this a little bit before, how we prepared for it. We had a nap and everyone was friendly. And it was actually very peaceful to merge for a while. And then there was a few wars that broke out. And it's pretty peaceful again now, I would say. I was prepared when we merged because I talked to people from other servers who merged on older servers, because we had some people on our server from Continent 1, and they said, yeah, just prepared. You're not going to be able to gather on tiles for at least a month or 2 before the alliances, the top alliances figure out who the power broker is going to be. But none of that happened. It was very peaceful. And there was a few wars, but they didn't last very long, and they weren't server wide. They were kind of just one alliance against one alliance at a time, and that's it. But I don't think that's very common. I think most merges are very hostile, and there's wars because you're gonna have, unless because each server has a couple really big coiners who want to run everything, and unless they get along right away, they're just gonna fight to see who gets to hold throne and who gets to decide the rules of the server. 14. If you did have a high power player on your server go rogue, what would be the best way to neutralize the threat? So I've played with many rogue players, and honestly, the best way to neutralize it is you just have to deal with them. If they're very big and they're very strong, there's nothing you can do. Like, for me, example, I'm 2.4, 2.5 billion, and I'm like 25th on my server in power. So you could say that's big, you could say it's not, but like, there's nothing I can do if someone wants to go rogue. I've been tiled 20 times in a day or two by a 300 million player just a couple weeks ago, and there's nothing I can do about it because the time it takes to go tile, it's what, like 5 seconds, and I have to have a march free. I can't be rallying. I have to see it coming. I have to, all sorts of different things that you have to be able to do to catch a person. So the best thing you can do is just talk with them, communicate, just be like, hey, what's up? What do you want? How can we solve this? How can we end this? And then another thing too is you can always pay them, right? I know lots of people, myself included, who have paid rogue people and been like, hey, how much stamina do you want a week? How many teleports? How many resources do you want to leave my alliance alone? I paid one guy 30 million ore a week to leave my alliance alone. And my alliance was the only alliance that could gather for months. And actually, you know what? I'm confusing those stories. The first time I paid a guy and he did not tile our alliance, and that lasted a couple weeks. And it was well worth it that we could farm in peace. And then fast forward a few months later, the guy who was rogue it was a complicated situation where my alliance merged with another alliance, and then we broke apart because the top server wanted us to break apart. And then the best player in the alliance, went rogue for a few months, and then he left us alone because we were alliance mates before. I did not pay him that time. So I was confusing the times where I paid someone. But on our current server, there are some people who go rogue and people pay them to leave them alone. And it's worth it. Like, if you think about it, 30 million ore a week when your whole alliance can gather, like, you make that up in a couple hours with one person. So it's definitely something to think about. Just talk with the person, but be aware that other people will be jealous and not happy about that, and they may want to attack you if they hear about it. 15. Do you have any tips and tricks when it comes to setting up skill books on generals to avoid unnecessary losses? Or no, honestly, you have to put on the level 1s, and I'll see if I have any generals that have a level 1 book. You have to put on level 1 because I'll show you in my items, and you guys you'll look at this and think it's just ridiculous how many books I have, but later in the game you'll get to this point as well. So books will come, don't worry about it. But you can see how many level 1 books I have, and these are basically all from the Wheel of Fortune. And then my red books, they aren't as much. There's still lots, but they're not in the 50s and 60s. And I sell these level 1s all the time to make new level 4s. And I have no level 2s and 3s because I disassemble those all the time because they're useless. Why do I want a level 2 or 3 book when I'm playing the long game and I just want level 4s? So you just put on the level 1s, and sometimes you get it in 3 tries, the ones you want, and sometimes it takes 30. And you just keep putting them on and putting them on. But one thing I would do is, if you have, let's say you have 3 books that you want to put on, and you have only one of the books, put that one on last, right? Because you only have one shot at that one, and then hope it works that way. 16. Have you heard when they will be adding plantogenic gear? No, they don't tell us anything. You email customer service and all they say is coming soon. It's been released, the ring, on some servers, but not mine. And I don't know. And it was for sale, basically. It was in the cake, and it cost anyone who got it about $2,000, which is ridiculous, especially for something that they're going to give free, eventually a drop from a boss in the game. So anyone who got that, I don't know if they paid just for that or they wanted all the other stuff that came with it. But and that was just a cherry on the cake. But yeah, the way they're doing it, it seems not very fun or fair. So 17, do you need a certain amount of troops in your subcity in order for your subcity's generals debuffs to work? Yes, you need 1 troop. So one thing that some people do in Battlefield, so I was playing against a guy today and he was just attacking me with 10,000 troops at a time. And people in my alliance were laughing and I had to tell them, like, no, he's trying to kill my subs. So if you send some small attacks with small troops, they'll fight the sub-cities and try and kill them. But one trick you can do is you can turn off the game and turn it back on, and it'll kind of revive a couple of the sub-troops, like the ones that are building and it says, like, you know, there's like 10 seconds left, 30 seconds left, that sort of stuff. And hopefully it'll kickstart some of the subs and get them back in. That's something that some people do. And I do it. I don't really know if it works, but I do it just to make sure, because without your debuffs, you are toast. So 18, should siege marches also be layered or just the best siege machines? So siege needs to be layered. It's a very complicated thing, but it should be layered just like anything else. So 1 troop of everything all the way up until about T9. And then it really depends, and you guys don't really need to worry about this for about 2 more years or another year and a half, if depending on how quickly you guys grow. But siege is something where it's a power swap. So you're going to lose the attack. Siege is not meant to kill the person. It's meant to thin them out and power swap. So you have to put the opposite troop that they have. And what I mean by that is if they are loaded with T14s, you send mostly T13s in your march. If they are loaded with mostly T12s, you send mostly T11s with your march. And the reason is you're just looking for a power swap. So you're trying to fight them with a mass amount of troops that are almost as good as the ones that they have a lot of, and you're going to lose less power than them in it. Siege is a very complicated thing. It's way too much to explain here on what you have to look for in it, but the layering is still the same. Beyond temporary uses to cut time with buffs, which buildings do you prioritize having generals full time and why? So that just depends on, can you is that general expendable? So you're talking about duty officers and which ones to leave full time on buildings. So the ones that you should leave full time are the duty officers, right? So if I look here in my generals, so Minamoto is my full-time hospital officer. I just leave him there. I don't take him off. Same with Dimitri as my keep officer, but the ones you really want to leave are the ones that are actual duty officers, right? Like John Portugal, his special skill is as a duty officer. Same with Oleg, right? So everyone else you can just move around. But the ones that are actually meant for that building, Ban Chao is probably the one you guys all have for the Archer Tower. You leave them there full time. And at the end of these questions, if you have a follow-up on that, just to make sure I answered that one correctly, we'll have some time for sure. So number 20, in PvP, is it better to use pure archers with siege, or pure siege? I do just pure archers now. So all my layers, everything's the same. And actually, I do add a little bit of siege. I add 5,000 siege from T10 to 14, so 20,000 siege come with me. And then all my layers are 55 from 1 to 9, and then all archers. I used to do counter troops. So if I have archers and their enemy is ground, I used to add a little bit extra mount with them, a little bit extra horse to fight off the ground. Lately, I've been trying it without, and I'm going to go back to my old style very soon just to see how it does and compare the two, because I've grown a lot in the last little bit, so it wouldn't be fair for me to compare how I do now with these marches versus how I was doing before with the old style, because it just isn't the same troop composition. But now that I've seen enough and I'm at this proper size where I can experiment, I'm going to go back and see how it is, but I have not noticed much of a difference now. But it might also be because I'm stronger and I'm not doing as well. I could be doing better. Maybe I'm leaving something on the table. But mostly archers, for sure. And 21, what are the top 2 or 3 PvP archer generals currently in the game, in your opinion? So there's basically 2 who are the best, and that's Alfred and Simeon. I'll just go into the tavern here and show you them. There's 2 that are by far the best, and then there is one that everybody should have, which is Tamiris. Every alliance should have one of her. So that is Tamiris. So the 2 best archer generals by far are right here, Alfred. He's awesome. And oops, did not want to click on her. And then we go down a little bit, and Simeon right here is the next best one. And then if we go over to others, Tamiris, this is the one that every alliance needs to have one of, because she increases the rally capacity by 5% and another 5% when you get down there on her max specialty, so 10%. So that basically gets you an extra march into the rally. And then you have all those strong Alfreds and whatnot with you. Electra is also awesome. She's very good. I also have her, but I just decided to go with Tamiris. The downfall of Electra is right here, that she needs a dragon from the pasture, which means if you advance and get 1 to 3 dragon Nidhogg, you cannot use it on her. And then Minamoto is also good. But those are basically the best archer generals in the game. And if you have any of them, you can't go wrong. For a PvP focused general, is overall health points or defensive points more important, and why? So that kind of depends on the general, because attack book is the most important thing you can put on, but not all generals can use an attack book. So if you find yourself with a general that you cannot use an attack book, then you might be able to get both health and defense on. But if you had to pick, I would say health. And the reason is because, so defense will, it will keep your troop from getting injured, from going to the hospital, right? But if we look here, it's okay. So I'm just going to pull up I'll pull up a troop. So if we look here, HP is always a bigger number than defense, right? So you're going to get more bang for your buck using HP, but defense, once this 854 is gone, and this isn't a good example because it's siege, so I'll just use a horse just to make sure, So once this 5,470 is gone and he loses 1 HP, he's going to the hospital. But he'll continue to fight all battle until he gets to 0 and dies. So if you have a bigger amount of HP, and most of the time you're going to lose your attacks. So you might as well have your troops fight longer and get more attacks in, rather than planning to whoop the guy, just destroy him and obliterate him and not have any wounded, because that only happens for a few people in the game, right? Most people are not the number 1 guy on the server. Most people do not have a 1300% archer attack, so they cannot just plan on just destroying everybody like that. So I would always go HP over defense. What is the fastest way to rally enemies with multiple players during battles? Okay, so number one, the most important thing you need to do is have a voice call with your team. You have to be on a line call, or you're just trailing the other team. I'm going through this actually right now on my new team. We have about half the people who want to do a voice call and half don't. And we just, if we play an equally talented team and they have a voice call, we're 10 seconds behind them and we can't do it. So the easiest thing to do is, I'll see if I could show you here on my game. So the easiest thing to do is, I'm just going to go into my chat, and all you would do is say, Archers going up now. And then in here, you should be clicking right here, right where it says join now. You just click there. It takes you right in, and you would have your preset, and you would join with it. So in here, you should go into your presets and you should change them. So I always have number 5 is always my archer preset. 4 is my ground preset. 3 is my mounted preset. So as soon as that goes up, I hit join and then I hit whatever number it is. But because we're in the voice call, we say right away, okay, archers going up now. And then everybody joins. And then you send and you just hit speed, 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 speed. But you got to pay that 1,000 gems to send early. So one thing that I would say is whoever sends and pays the 1,000 gems should not be the person speeding. So someone else should speed for that person. Number 24, is it better to keep Monarch level the same as keep level, or does it matter? Doesn't matter at all. I used to think that it couldn't surpass it, but I believe Monarch level can go higher than keep level. Get your Monarch level to 35 as quickly as you can. It's so important. 25, beyond daily tasks that are routine, what are the top 3 things you feel that lower level players should start doing early on, and at what levels, if applicable? So I would just say join rallies. So I'm going to show you here. I farmed a lot in my earlier time on this playing, and I just thought, I'm not burning stamina like all those people. I'm not wasting it. And I'm getting more resources from farming than they are because I was such a good farmer. But I really missed out on this, the rank. The prestige is probably the most important thing in the game. Now I'm playing catch up, and I'm doing a really good job, but it's a long battle, especially because we merged. So I figured this out before our merge. And I was something like, sorry, I'm just going to take a phone call and come back. Okay, sorry guys, I'm back. So I figured I was about 17th, I think. So I was almost going to be an Archduke, which is massive in the game. And then we merged, and now like these people who've been playing for 5 years, I have no hope of ever being an Archduke here. I don't think. It will take me probably about 2 or 3 years, and people would have to quit because they're also gaining points when I'm trying to catch them. So it's not easy. But I would say prestige, it's very, very important. So number 26, alternatively, what are 3 things I would avoid? I'll just give you one, and I think this is the most important thing, is actually 2. So these things right here, these refined stones, are so hard to get in the game, and so are these things right here. The rune stones, they're so hard to get. Do not waste them. Don't do any rune stones on your generals until you know that's a general you're going to use forever. So once you get a general who you think is the best in the game or one of the best in the game and you're going to use it forever, that's when you should start doing their specialties, because here I thought this was going to be my wall general early on in the game, and I did a few. Luckily, I didn't do too many on him, but yeah, they're wasted. And then the other thing is with refined stones, wait till you have Ares gear or Achaemenid gear, okay? Because if you do it on something else, so I'll just show you right here. I believe this guy should have something. So does he have boots that are refined? Yeah, so I got some refines on these boots. And that's not efficient because Dragon's Gear refines top out at 20%. But when I upgrade those, I can get 25%. So I just lost 5% and I'm going to have to redo them. So that was not efficient. So refined stones and rune stones, don't waste them. What are your favorite online resources for information outside of YouTube? I basically just Google. Like if I want to find something about Evony, I'll Google like whatever it is I'm looking for, like dragon skills, right? And maybe someone will have an image up somewhere that'll tell me what sort of skills a certain dragon gives, or keep 33 requirements, and I'll just Google and find something like that. And then the Facebook groups are pretty good too. They got lots of trolls and things like that. Like if you ask a question, you might get ripped on, but you might get a person there who gives you a good answer. But the best resource is probably going to be whoever the best players are on your server. I would just message them, and most good players will just give you information. 29. Are there any specific skill books you look for in a PvP attack general versus defense? Well, every general is different, so your wall defense general is never going to be the same as your PvP attack generals. So one thing I would do is look at the top players on your server, look at their generals. I do it even now just to make sure, just because, you know, sometimes I'm just lazy and I don't feel like looking it up on my own, and I'll just look at the general rankings and be like, oh, what's this guy always has the best stuff, so what's he have? And I'll just look and I'll see what gear he has, and then I'll look at another top player, and so this is one of the other really top players, and I'll look and be like, okay, they're both mounted generals, do they have the exact same gear? Perfect. And then I'll compare the gears, but I'll have a good starting place there. 30. Can you walk us through the delegation process for your server? Goes through prior to SVS. Do you have any tips, techniques you would like to share? I've never been on a server that worked well together for SVS. It's always just been one alliance carrying the server. So basically they would tell us, hey, don't screw it up for us. And I don't know what they would talk about prior to it. But people scout, right? You go over to the enemy server, you try and bookmark their hives, and then you look for bubble drops throughout the weekend for the server war. And then other than that, that's really all you can do. You could set up traps. So early on in servers, you can pretend to drop bubble and fill that guy with reinforcements before, and you can move them around the map. Before the server starts, you can put them in an enemy hive. You can put them in the middle somewhere and speed in reinforcements before server war starts and hope no one sees it, and then hope they just hit it blind. Other things is basically just the easiest way for points in server war is just going to be, I'll just show you here on the map, but the temples basically, and you just go there. So you just go to, hopefully it clicked on the right place. Yeah, so the temple, and you basically just attack it. And if you need to put 5 million power in, and then you'll start to get points. And you'll get like 2,000 points a second. And you'll come up and just keep going. And if someone comes, you just pull your troops out. And you could play with the person. And they'll put troops in. And then you could try and hit them with the opposite troops. Like if they put archers, you could try and send ground. If you have those ground presets already established, and back and forth, or you could just leave and not play with the person if they're too big. But basically, that's what you do. And the general power counts for that 5 million power. So if your general is 4 million power, you only have to put 1 million power of troops, and you can ghost the rest. And then you only have that much that is susceptible to being hit. Okay, so I'm just going to look in the chat now and see if there's any other questions that I didn't do. Okay, how do you find relics? You need to have one in your alliance, and you go to the relic tab, or so you would just go over here, and here's relics right there. You click on it, it'll show you all your alliance's relics, or you open one on your own. So down there were all the other relics I could have went to. Question 5. Question, I have 5 light armor scrolls, but it doesn't look like I can craft light armor anymore. Should I just disassemble the scrolls? Yeah, I disassemble every scroll I'm not going to use now, but that's just me. So that's totally up to you. Jewel 7 in the house. Nice. Sorry, I wasn't reading these as I was going. I just wanted to pound through all those questions and get them over with. Duplicate generals on subs. If it's a good general, yes. So for me, I have 7 Andrew Jacksons. So you should also try and do the same thing unless you get better generals than Andrew Jackson. And there are a couple new ones. Canut the Great and Amir and Baldwin are very good generals that they just released. Okay, so just reading through the questions. So yeah, you do get better materials from Dragon Scrolls than King Scrolls, but you don't get as many of them for sure. Dragon Scrolls and Achaemenid Scrolls are very slow to drop. Question 27, it looks like I missed it. Okay, I will go back to it. And how much do you get back from decomposing armor pieces? Looking for dragon scales. Usually you get a lot more than you would think, but you don't get what you put into it. So question 27, what are the top 3 lesser known mechanics you have discovered that you wish that you knew sooner? So basically just the mistakes that I talked about. I wish I didn't refine those weapons below Ares gear, and I wish that I didn't waste rune stones, and I probably would have had presets in my marches done sooner, and I also would have used layers sooner if I knew anything about them. But one of the things I really would have done sooner if I knew, I would have played SVS right away. I didn't play for a while, and I was always Freedom. I don't know if you guys watch his YouTube channel, and he always talks about people being scared and always saying, you know, I just need to get 100 million power, or I just need to finish this general, then I'm going to play SVS. And like, it's never going to happen. He's right. It just becomes something else. Like, oh, well, now I need 200. I don't want to, you know, now I need 300. So I would have just played right away. And one of the other reasons I would have played right away is it's the easiest time to get wings is very early in the server. You go get them, and tons of people splat and go negative for them. And then no one ever says anything about it again. But if you do it in 6 months or a year, when people actually figure out the game and care about SVS, and then you're costing them resources because they're not getting the extra gems for winning because they're losing because other people are splatting, then people are just going to call you splatter forever. They're going to hate you and your alliance. Go get them early, and then no one talks about you ever. I know tons of people from my 136 who did that, and they're garbage players, but they got their wings, and nobody says anything about them now. It's just like, yeah, they're one of the cool kids. So how do I have time to play 2 games and record? So, you know, on Evony, first of all, I'm very, very far into the game, so it doesn't take me as much time to play anymore, but I still do play Evony a lot and a lot more. The other game I'm kind of experimenting with playing, and I do like it. And yeah, they're very similar games too, so that makes the process easy. Like, all these online strategy games are the same, but they just have different twists and turns in them, different ways to collect the resources, but they're all the same sort of strategies. When doing research, should I use speed ups until I run out of money and or speed ups, or only speed up during consuming event? So early in the game, when okay, I got confused there. Someone said I was on mute, but they muted me on their screen, so there was no echo. Early in the game, when you don't have enough speed ups, yeah, always just save them for the consuming event, and then save the resources for the consuming resource event, and that's it. So looks like that's it for the questions. Any other people who have their microphones muted, if you wanted to ask any follow-up questions or any other questions came up that you may be interested in, that you thought of when I answered some, you can feel free to turn your mics on and talk to me. Just keep the YouTube muted and then talk to me on the call. I'll give you, I know there's a delay, so I'll give about 20 seconds or so for anyone to talk. Otherwise, we can just wrap this up.
Angus, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Are you taking questions?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll just do audio questions now if anyone has any quick.
Okay. Do you have any tips on like BOC or BOG stuff that like for strategy on the battlefield events?
Yeah, so strategies in that, especially early game, basically control the portals and buildings, right? So get some of your smaller guys to be pests and show up to the portals and just continue to reset them with one troop. Ghost everything else, hide all your troops, and just keep resetting those portals, making sure you control them, and then try and hit the enemy when they have one march out, right? Like one of their guys might go try and hit your guy who's on the portal, and when he has one march out, if he's only a 60 million player or a 30 million player and he has one march out, that's probably a third of his size or half of his size, and then you hit him. And then you hit him again when the next march returns. So that's basically the early game strategy in BOC. And that will also help you prepare for playing with the temples in SVS, because it's the same sort of cat and mouse idea that you're going to be doing. So just looking at some of the questions that are there, why would you have more than one ranged attack march? So you would only have one... So you only need one ranged attack march, but you would use it over and over again. And the person above that, would I be better to have only one PvP range march so that I can ghost quicker? What I do is I ghost the range march first. First thing I ghost is that. And then I ghost every other troop, or I'm talking about when I was smaller. And then I put the range troop at a different timer, like 30 minutes. And that way I know which one it is. And then if I get an opportunity to hit someone, I drop it. And then I use it. And hey, with a few questions, can I get in touch with you off of here? Yeah. Send me a message either in game or on here. You can leave a comment in the chat, a comment in the comment section, or send me an email that's on the channel as well. Okay, any other questions on the audio?
We do have one.
Sure, go ahead.
How should we set up a monster killing march?
So just your highest troops, all mount. So if you have say you're going after a B10 Griffin, just send all tier 10 horses, mounted troops. Don't mix and match. Don't send 9s and 8s and 10s. There's no layering on bosses. Just send whatever horse level you can afford to send. Generally, early game, it's always going to be your highest level, right? So it's going to be 9s or 10s or 11s. Just send them all at it. Or if you know the amount, like if you know that if you have a million T10 horse and you know it only takes 200,000, send 200,000 10s. And then everyone else in your alliance just sends one troop. And they get all the same chest benefits just like you did. But one of the important things also, I just thought of this. One of the things I wish I knew earlier in the game, even I knew it, I found it out like about a month or two in, was using double generals. Right? So make sure, this is something to make sure everyone in your alliance does too. Oops. This might be a faster way to go through my generals, just going side to side here. But I'll just show this for anyone who doesn't know. But Baybars and Cleopatra, and then there's the Lux Skill Books you can put on. So here, he has one. So Lux Skill Book, make sure you put these on, grants you double items, and then make sure that they get rings that also grant double drops. So right here, double item drop rate, 28. And then this Bird of Hurricane also grants a double drop. So this is my top double drop general. He saves me stamina as well with his skill. And then all the Baybars also do the exact same thing. They have a built-in skill. Right, there's one there. So his natural skill that he has, 25%. And then I have him with a double drop ring as well. 26%. So he's at 51%. And he can't take a luck book. But any other questions? So everyone in your alliance just sends one troop with that guy, and then they get the same. Unless it's a really big boss and you need help, then. But you make sure that they send the same troop that you just sent. So if you're sending T10 horses, they can't send 9s or 8s to help you out. They have to send 10s. It's better that they send just one troop than 200,000 T9s. It has to be the same troop, or it's just going to be lots of losses for everyone.
I don't think we have any more questions, Genghis. Please, thank you very much for doing this. On behalf of the Imperial Alliance of 565, we thank you very much for taking our questions. You've been a big influence on a lot of us, and we wouldn't be as big and powerful as we are if it wasn't for you. So thank you very much.
Awesome, no problem. How big is your alliance right now? What's the power total?
We're like 3.6 billion right now.
Oh, that's a good size for 4 months in. Yeah. And what's your biggest player?
He's a little over 600.
Yeah, that's very big for sure.
Yeah,
that took me a year, 14 months or so to get that size. Yeah. So that's, yeah, you guys are really coming along. But SVS basically, you know, you just have to be active and watching the other hives. And that's all I would say. And do you guys watch Freedom's channel?
Sometimes.
Yeah, like he had some really good advice where he said, and I've never really heard big players really say this before. On my server's the opposite, where his was like, just encourage everybody to play and don't worry about negatives. And yeah, it might suck for a couple SVSs while people learn and train, but don't be too worried about the people who are chirping you and laughing that you did poor and whatnot, but just go out and hit and you'll figure it out. And even the big guys, like he said, he didn't know what negative points were at first. He was just going out getting points, and then people were laughing at him for how many negatives he had until he figured it out. But you basically just have to play and figure it out. But you guys are a good size. You'll be fine, I'm sure, soon. So we'll end it here. And if you have any other questions offline, just send them, and I'll do my best to answer them. So thanks a lot, guys. I enjoyed it, and hope everyone else did. And like, subscribe, leave a comment, and there'll be more videos for Evony coming up soon.